Hi guys, we are Jen and John Gilmer. We are also OGs with the Kellers somewhere around here. And we didn't think it was old guys. We were up on the hip slang. So we have been married for, I guess it's now 6.5 years. When you're this age, you kind of have to look at each other for that.
Dawn still thinks 4, but it's not Dawn.
Four.
Not 4.
You're keeping us at 4. And so we are a blended family. We have kids age 18, 3 kids, beautiful kids, wonderful kids, age 18 to 26. We actually met on Christian Mingle. We were both looking for a Christian partner when we got back out on the market. And when we first met, I let him know that I came out of a 15-year broken marriage that I was still kind of healing from, and that I had 2 children from that marriage.
Yeah, and I also was very honest up front with Jennifer and told her I had also been married once and had 1 child. But like most people, we only share the part of the story that we want to share. We don't necessarily go into the painful details or the things that cause shame and embarrassment. And the truth was, I was actually married twice before I met Jennifer. But I thought if I told her that she would never give me a chance, that we would, that this relationship, we would not be standing on this stage.
And the reality is, honestly, I don't think I would have. I mean, no shame to anybody, but I grew up Southern Baptist. I grew up a perfectionist. I didn't like to disappoint anybody, and the shame I was carrying over a broken marriage was just heavy. And there was no way I was going to tell people, now I'm dating a guy who's been married two times. However, I didn't even know, because he didn't share it, until I found out on my own. And that's for another story, because we don't have enough time of how I found that out. But
yeah, you know, part of her story in her relationship is there was a lot of deception in her 15-year marriage. And so starting out with deception was a hard obstacle that we really dug into that night that she found out. There was a lot of transparency, a lot of tears on my part. Honestly, we had talked for a long time, and I thought I was losing somebody. My fears were coming true. So we had a lot of work to do, not just to reconcile that, but to overcome some pain from the past in our relationships. If you're a blended family, you know it's not easy to blend teenagers, and so that was some work that we needed to do, and we were really good about finding good avenues and foundations to do that. But then I asked her to marry me. We were engaged, and she found out she had a debilitating autoimmune disease before we ever got married, and so we had some uphill battles to climb as well.
So owning his story with me really started us on a trajectory where we were had a closeness that I had never experienced, in honesty in our relationship. But God really started stretching us in 2020 when we went to the 21 days of prayer and fasting here at Seacoast and met Tim and Rebecca. Of course, at that point, because they had never started this program, this experience before, they were like, hey, come do this high impact thing with us. And we were like, okay. You know, we were coming out of COVID, so we would do anything if somebody would talk to us, because if you've met us, we're not very quiet and need people. So we were like, sure. And like many of y'all that are sitting out there today, we sat in the seats, and I was like, is this a marriage course? Do you know what this is? Like, we didn't know what we were doing. So the first thing they asked us to do was to get on Facebook in a private group and tell our story. Do not have a heart attack. Y'all do not have to do that this time, the whole story. You will have to do something, but it's not the same. And John started looking at some of the stories that were posted, and he came to me and he was like, oh my gosh, Jen, like, they're getting in deep and telling the real story. Like, I guess we're gonna have to go all in.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, it was hard enough to share my story with Jennifer, but then to share it publicly with people I didn't know, was even harder. I will say that part of my encouragement was to do it was based off of David's vulnerability to share his story the very first time we met, and it gave me the courage to be honest with you, to share something that maybe felt less than what David was going through, but it was my own pain and my shame that I was dealing with. And so I shared it for the first time with other people besides Jennifer, which meant that some other people in our lives found out for the first time.
So it's so hypocritical, but once he told me about being married twice, the good Baptist in me was like, well, let's don't tell anybody else, especially my family and our children. Our children never knew that his past. I mean, they knew he'd been married because we had Alex, our son. So fast forward to Tim and Rebecca. I mean, this is sad that it took us this many times. Fast forward many sessions, and we've already come out to the group, and some friends were sitting in the crowd. But Tim and Rebecca asked us to do a podcast, and, you know, they don't hold back. So they, without thinking, we had told our kids, hey, listen to our podcast, and our parents. I get calls from college of, what? You never told us this. So it's sad that it took, like, we got freedom from telling our story with each other. We got freedom from telling our story with the group. And then freedom with the kids.
And that freedom, to be honest with you, is it just allowed us to live life differently. We weren't trying to walk around a narrative that was a false narrative. We could have honest conversations and be authentic with people for the first time, and have honest and authentic conversations with God, and just truly be open-handed with how He wanted to bless our lives. And in every one of these stories, there's a lot of blessing on the other side of it. And but there's a lot of work too. I felt free, but there were still things that were holding her back.
So my real breakthrough came in a Tuesday night Zoom call. In the first session, I am bubbly and silly and try to act like things are always fantastic. And on the Zoom call, somebody said, how are you doing? And of course, I was like, fabulous. And somebody said, no, I think it was Rebecca. You know how she digs in and makes you cry. She said, no, really. And oh God, something came out of me. I was like shotgun crying on the phone, couldn't even pull it together, because I had hidden the fact that I had this rheumatoid arthritis disease diagnosis for 4 years from people, because I thought it made me look weak. And I thought, God, other people are going through so much worse stuff. You can deal with some pain, Jen. But I was struggling with what my future looked like, what was work gonna look like, what were my kids gonna think. I mean, we did sporting events. I never sat still, ever. So God was really sidelining me, and I had no idea what that looked like for my future. So I hid it and just pushed through all the time. And so once the question was asked and I let it out with the ladies, it just came flooding. And the freedom of these ladies praying over me, and the empathy, and that my story was worth, it was okay to feel pain and be upset about what I was going through. And one of the biggest things is I learned to talk to God about it. God, of course, knew what was going on, but I didn't feel like it was something I could share with even the Lord, because He had blessed me in so many other ways. So how dare I complain about some physical pain? And so it taught me how to just cry out to Him. I still suffer the disease. It's not like I had some miraculous healing. I will continue to pray for that. And He's teaching me to slow down and to hear His voice, but to know that He will tell me and give me the strength to do the things that He wants me to do. And I don't have to do the things. I can say no to the other things. And so it's been so freeing for us to continue to learn to own our stories. It's amazing. God bubbles up things that you think aren't even there, and there's more to own all the time. and more that he wants to grow in. But don't hold it in.
My encouragement would be, if you're sitting here thinking like Jennifer thought on those calls, I know these are may seem extreme to you as far as people's stories, and maybe they're your story, but don't have self-doubt that your story is not as big as our story, that your story doesn't matter, because I'm telling you, as I look around the room to some of the coaches and some of the people that have been through this 90-day course, and they sat here and they thought, what are we getting into? And I guarantee you right now they're sitting here thinking, thank you for letting me go through this. Thank you for the blessing that I've received on this side of it. We want that for every one of you. And so my encouragement would be, don't commit to us, commit to you. Right? Commit to yourselves to stick with this, to do the hard conversations, to not have the self-doubt about just being transparent about things. Commit to yourselves, and trust me, on the other side of this 90 days, the growth that you will see will just be, I can't even explain. And you'll probably be sitting here with another class going, yep, he's right. I want that for every one of you, just like I wanted it for ourselves, and Tim and Rebecca wanted it for us initially.